I've always believed that revenge doesn't start with anger. It starts with clarity. Anger burns too fast. It gives you away. But clarity, that's the slow flame. It takes its time, warms your blood just enough to keep you steady, while the rest of the world still thinks you're fine. My name is Evan Cole, and if you ever meet my family, don't mention that name too early. We prefer our introductions dressed in pleasantries, not history. Thanksgiving at my mother's house was the same every year. Polished plates, quiet competition, and the smell of her rosemary turkey soaking through the air like a memory that refused to fade. I'd come back this year, not because I missed them, but because endings need witnesses, and I was ready for mine to begin. Marissa was already there when I arrived, my older sister, dressed in something that screamed money, even though half of it used to be mine. Her smile came sharp and quick, the kind people practice in boardrooms. "Evan," she said, brushing my shoulder with a kiss that didn't touch her heart, "you're early." "I figured I'd help Mom set the table," I said. She laughed lightly. "Still the good son." The kind of line that sounds like praise but really means, still beneath me. Skyla came in last. You could always tell Skyla apart from us. She moved quietly, never trying to be the loudest voice in the room. Her dress was simple, her hair tied back. She had the kind of calm that made people underestimate her. Maybe that's why Marissa never saw her coming. Mom, on the other hand, was in her element. She loved control disguised as hospitality. Every spoon, every candle, every folded napkin said, "I built this family, and you will play your part." We all did. For years. I should probably say this before I go too far. Marissa didn't just take money from me. She took something worse. My father's company. His legacy. Everything he spent 40 years building, she rewrote in her name 2 weeks after he died. I was out of the country at the time, handling contracts. When I came back, my signature was already on the papers. She forged it, and then smiled at me during the funeral, like nothing had happened. I confronted her once, quietly, in her office. She didn't even deny it, just leaned back and said, "You wouldn't have known what to do with it anyway, Evan. You're too sentimental for business." That sentence rewired something inside me. She was right. I was sentimental. But I wasn't stupid. And I don't believe in letting people walk away clean after cutting you open. So I waited, watched, gathered. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around, I had everything. Bank trails, email chains, recorded calls. But revenge isn't about what you can prove. It's about how you make them feel it. Dinner started soft, clinking cutlery, Mom's small talk about her church group. Skyla complimenting the wine. I joined in where I needed to. I didn't look at Marissa too much. I wanted her comfortable. She thrived on control, so I gave her the illusion of it. Halfway through the meal, she started her usual act, talking about her company, the expansion, the new investor she brought in to double their valuation. Everyone nodded. Everyone but me. "You must be proud," I said. "Oh, you know how it is," she smiled, slicing her turkey delicately. "Vision pays off if you know how to execute." "Yeah," I said, still watching her hands. "And if you know how to sign for other people." There was a pause, the kind that stretches between heartbeats. Mom looked up. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled. "Nothing, just a business joke." But Marissa's eyes flickered. She knew. The first tiny crack in her calm. After dinner, I asked her to step outside. The night was cool. The ocean wind from down the hill brought salt and quietness. I handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Proof," I said. She didn't open it right away, just stared at me with that expression of bored superiority. "Evan, if this is another one of your emotional crusades—" "It's not emotional," I said softly. "It's arithmetic." That made her look. "Arithmetic?" "Yes. What you took, what you owe, and what it'll cost you now." For a moment, the only sound was the wind. She opened the envelope. Her fingers hesitated when she saw the pages. Signed documents, bank transfers, falsified authorizations. Every move she thought was buried. "You've been digging," she said. "For 2 years," I replied, carefully. She laughed once. "So what now? You want me to confess? Give it all back?" "No," I said. "I want you to live with the anticipation of losing it. That's what you gave me, years of uncertainty. I'm just returning it." That's the thing about revenge. People expect drama, raised voices, broken glass, blood. But real revenge is quiet. It's the kind that sits across the table from you and lets you feel the walls closing in without lifting a finger. "Maybe not yet," I said, turning to go. "But I have patience." Behind me, I heard her scoff. The kind of sound that tries to mask fear. And that was enough. When I went back inside, Skyla was clearing the plates. She looked at me for a long second. Not asking, just knowing. I'd told her parts of it before. She never interfered, just said, "Make sure when you're done, you can still sleep at night." I told her I already hadn't slept in years. That night, I stayed in my old room. The walls still had faint marks from when I used to pin my father's blueprints there. I thought about how he used to say,
"I built an alias,
never fight
and then
with
another."
rage. Rage makes you forget the goal. Maybe he was right, but rage built the bridge that brought me here. The next morning, things were quieter. Mom was still talking about Christmas plans. Skyla made breakfast. Marissa sat at the table, calm, but quieter than usual. Her phone kept buzzing, but she didn't check it. I knew why. She'd spent the night going through the documents, realizing how much of what she'd done could unravel. When I stepped outside later, I saw her by the garden, pacing. Her hair was uncombed. A rare sight. "You don't understand what you've started," she said, without looking up. "I understand perfectly. You could destroy this family." I nodded. "That's what you said when you took Dad's company too. Only then, you didn't call it destruction. You called it leadership." She turned to me. "I was saving us." "From what?" "From failure. From sentiment. From your weakness." The word hung in the air. Weakness. It was her favorite insult, the one she used on everyone who didn't play her game. I took a breath. "You built your empire on theft, Marissa. You stole from your own blood and called it vision. And you think you're the strong one." Her jaw tightened. For the first time, she didn't have a reply. Before she could speak, Mom called out from inside, "Evan, come in here, please." I glanced at Marissa once, then walked in. Mom was standing by the counter, holding my envelope, open. "Where did you get these?" she asked, her voice trembling. "From her," I said. "Evan, this is serious. You can't go around accusing your sister of—" "I'm not accusing her, Mom. I'm showing you the truth." She shook her head. "I don't want to hear it. Families survive because we protect each other, not tear each other apart." That line. The old defense. Protect the family, even if it's built on lies. I looked at her, this woman who'd held us together for decades, with guilt and tradition. "Maybe that's the problem," I said quietly. "We keep calling it protection, when it's really silence." Skyla was standing by the doorway now, drying her hands with a towel, her eyes steady on me. "You should tell her everything," she said softly. "If you're going to do this, don't hide behind evidence. Say it, All of it. So I did. I told my mother about the forged signatures, the stolen accounts, the false charity funds. Every detail. She just stood there, one hand on the counter, her face blank. When I finished, she sat down slowly. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked. "Because you wouldn't have believed me," I said. The silence that followed was the kind that changes a family forever. That evening, after everyone had retreated into separate rooms, I sat outside watching the sky turn that deep bruised purple that comes before rain. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt still. Revenge doesn't give you closure. It just rebalances the scale. And sometimes, balance feels cold. Skyla came out and stood beside me. "You think this will make her stop?" she asked. "I think it'll make her think," I said. "That's more dangerous." She nodded. "You've always been methodical, even in anger." I smiled faintly. "That's the only way it works." She looked at me then, really looked. "Be careful, Evan. When people like Marissa start losing control, they don't surrender. They adapt." I knew she was right. But that was fine, because so did I. I watched the rain start to fall on the garden. The first drops hit the stone path like whispers. And I thought, maybe this was just part one. Maybe the real reckoning hadn't even started yet. 3 days passed before she called the meeting. When Marissa wants control, she doesn't shout. She organizes. She schedules. So when the message went out, family meeting, Sunday, 6 p.m., no excuses, I knew she was ready to perform her version of order again. Mom agreed instantly. Skyla didn't say much, but she came. I did too. Not because I wanted peace, but because revenge needs its ending. Without closure, it starts to rot. The dining room looked staged, like always. Candles, neutral tablecloth, the good silver. You'd never guess the house was carrying a scandal inside it. Marissa was already seated at the head of the table. Her hair was perfect again. Her confidence rehearsed. She had papers spread in front of her, but not the ones I'd given her. I noticed that immediately. "Let's get something straight," she began, her tone clipped. "We are a family, not a courtroom. And we are not going to destroy decades of legacy because of misunderstandings." Mom nodded quickly, grateful for someone taking charge. Skyla said nothing. She just leaned back, watching. Marissa turned to me. "Evan, I don't know what you think you've uncovered, but you're wrong. The documents you found, they were drafts, misinterpreted. You've embarrassed this family." Her calmness was almost impressive. She was gaslighting everyone with the grace of someone who'd done it for years. I smiled slightly. "You rehearsed that?" Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me. You rehearsed it, the tone, the phrasing, misunderstandings. You've used that one before, when you took the first loan in Dad's name, remember?" The silence in the room thickened. Mom looked from me to her. "Marissa, is that true?" Marissa laughed softly. "He's twisting things again." Skyla stood then. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Stop pretending, Marissa. You can lie to Mom, but not to me. You've always thought you were the smartest one in the room. But you forget. I listen more than I talk." Marissa turned sharply. "Skyla, don't." But Skyla reached into her bag and dropped a flash drive on the table. "I backed up every file you deleted after Dad's death. Every memo, every transfer. You built your empire on ghosts." Mom pressed a hand to her chest. "Dear God." Marissa's face went pale. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I leaned forward. "You once told me sentiment was weakness. I disagree. Sentiment remembers. It keeps receipts." For a long time, no one spoke. Then Mom whispered, "Is this true, Marissa?" Marissa exhaled, slow, shaky. "I did what I had to do. You wouldn't understand. Dad's plans were outdated. Evan didn't have the drive. I saved us. You stole from us, I said. I built something. She snapped. While you were busy, what, mourning? Talking about ethics. You think people like Dad survive in today's market? He'd have lost everything. Her voice cracked on the last word, like even she didn't believe it anymore. I stood up. You didn't save us, Marissa. You saved yourself, and you used Dad's name to do it. She looked at me, eyes glossy, angry, desperate. So what now? You'll ruin me? Throw me in jail? Will that make you feel better? I hesitated. That's the thing about revenge. When you finally get the moment you dreamed of, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels heavy, like justice and grief are holding hands. No, I said finally. I'm not pressing charges. I just wanted you to face what you are. From now on, everyone knows the truth. Mom covered her face with her hands. Enough. Please. I can't listen to this anymore. Skyla walked over and held her shoulders. It's over, Mom. But it wasn't. Not really. Marissa gathered her papers quietly. You think this changes anything? People still see me as the success story. They'll believe what I tell them. I looked at her. Then tell them whatever you want. But deep down, you'll know. Your name is clean, only because I let it be. Her eyes met mine, sharp, wounded, proud, the kind of look people give when they realize they've lost something they can never get back. Not the company, not the money, but control. She left first. No one stopped her. The sound of the front door closing echoed longer than it should have. Later that night, the house was quiet again. Mom had gone to bed early. Skyla and I sat outside, just like before. The sky was clear this time. No rain, just silence. You didn't destroy her, she said after a while. No, I said. I didn't have to. She nodded. That's mercy. You know. Or maybe it's exhaustion. She smiled faintly. Either way, you won. I shook my head. No one wins in family wars, Sky. You just stop bleeding first. We sat there a long while, watching the lights of the city flicker below the hill. I thought about Dad, about what he'd say if he were still here. Probably something about dignity, about how some debts should never be repaid with interest. Skyla reached over and touched my arm. You did what had to be done. I looked at her, then at the empty chair where Marissa used to sit every holiday. I just hope, I said quietly, it was worth what it cost. The wind moved through the trees, soft, almost forgiving. Somewhere inside, the clock struck midnight. And just like that, the Cole family turned another page. Not healed, not perfect, but honest. And sometimes, that's the closest thing to justice you'll ever get. In the weeks that followed, Marissa vanished from the world she once ruled so effortlessly. Her name slipped out of headlines. Her company started to crack in quiet corners. Investors pulling back, meetings canceled, projects frozen mid-pitch. You could almost hear the silence swallowing her empire. People started whispering, connecting dots she tried so hard to blur. And no matter how many polished statements she released or interviews she dodged, the truth, once it's out there, always finds its own way home. I didn't say a word through any of it, didn't defend her, didn't drag her name either. I just stepped back. It's funny how still the world gets when you stop trying to control it. I went back to the workshop behind our father's old house. The place still smelled like sawdust and burnt coffee, the kind of smell that sticks to memory. Dust lay over everything, like time had been waiting for me to come clean it off. I found his old blueprints rolled up in the corner. Some of the lines had faded, but I remembered every curve and marking like I'd drawn them myself. I spread them out on the table and started sketching again. Not to rebuild what we lost. No, that part of life was gone. I just wanted to feel what honest work felt like again. Wood, pencil, effort. No lies. For the first time in years, my chest wasn't tight. I didn't feel proud or angry, just still. Revenge didn't set me free. It never does. What freed me was the truth, finally standing there without fear, without needing to prove anything.